Hello and welcome to Fieros Reborn. That's me, and it's also the name of the channel. Kapow! Got the introduction done in 6 seconds. Wicked. Hello, welcome to Fieros' story time within Fieros Reborn, the channel with me, Fieros. I am reborn. I am reborn every fucking day. And it's a bit of a grind at the moment because I'm like, why am I alive? What am I doing? I swear other people go through this though. You know, it's like, why am I still here? For me, it's why am I still here? It's not why am I here. It's like, how come I haven't died yet? I thought I thought I would have killed myself by now, but that one I don't do that anymore. The whole killing myself type of thing. And also, how come I haven't died of natural causes yet? There was a few times in my life where I felt like I was about to die. Uh, that's a lie. That's not entirely untrue. Anyway, I am still here, and here we are. We're still doing Fieros' Storytime, the video series. I'm just going to renew my commitment to the thing. I could not be bothered to put Ganesh up in the background. I do not apologise. I do not apologise. I just can't be asked. So, fuck it. Who cares? If you care, I do not apologise for who I am and my decisions. Up yours. So there must be a sort of middle ground between I'm so sorry and let me change my whole life around what you want, and then fuck you, I don't give a shit about you at all. There must be some kind of middle ground between those two polarities of attitude, you know, like I need to do everything for you and then I need to do everything for me and I don't care about you. There must be some kind of middle ground. There it is. So, right, we have more on mr.b. That's more on mr.b, not the moron mr.b, although we could call him that from now on. Moron. Moron mr.b. Right. We are going to get the voice slow down. I do apologise for that because that's not my fault. Is it my fault? Well, yeah, in a way it is because I am too lazy and too tight-fisted and tight-walleted about my money to buy a new camera. And I also could use my phone camera, but I cannot be fucked because it's more difficult to use the phone camera because I have to put it in a weird angle and there's a possibility of it falling over and now blah, blah, blah. What? So, I'm in small fire mode today. I may well be in big fire mode tomorrow. We shall see. I've got my heart chakra pendant on, which I feel quite attached to at the moment. My heart chakra. It's mine. My heart. Yeah. So, let's carry on. I wanted to renew my commitment to the series and to the end of the series. The end of the series will be coming around the mountain when it comes. It will be coming around the mountain when it comes, and it will be when I have told my life story thoroughly enough for me to feel satisfied that I've said everything that I wanted to say, that was in my mind to say, that was in my brain to say, that was in my heart to say, that was true and real and that happened and that I feel was important, or even just the incidental stuff, that I have said everything that I wanted to say about this topic up until the point of 2014 when I've cut off medication. That when I get to that point of the story authentically and there's nothing more to say, like I've said everything before that a million times before and there's nothing else to say, all the gaps have been kind of filled in, you know? Because it does feel like that in a way. It's like I'm filling in parts of my aura that were damaged and broken. So like sometimes when I'm putting my hand here like this, it's as though I actually feel a sort of layer of my aura being reshaped or something by me doing this. Like this right hand side seems fine mostly, but it's the left hand side that's just got this kind of big cloud of shit in it. And it was also over my shoulder and stuff, and it's related to the throat area as well. So, I was talking about Mr. B yesterday in depth, and I'm going to carry on talking about that relationship because it, as I said before, it was a big fuck. It was a big old fucker of a relationship. Again, we will get some slowdown of the voice when it comes. I do not apologize, but I hope you can deal with it, and I hope you get through it. We'll get through this together. So, let's stop waffling. Mr. B was a dick. His penis was bigger than mine. That's just a true fact of life. Those are the facts. Read 'em and weep. I must admit I was a little bit jealous of the fact that he had a larger dick penis than me. A cock schlong. His cock was schlonger than mine. Yeah. And that did make me feel slightly inferior, to be fair. Oh God, there's more things coming up in me now. So I was a vegan for a long period of time. I don't know how long, actually. I say a long period of time. I was a vegan for a certain period of time during this story. I got really thin. Like, I was quite gaunt. And I shaved my head for charity as well. So, oh God, I was at university. I was doing this campaigning for environmental things and the Stop AIDS campaign and the Fair Trade campaign. And I swear there's something to do with poverty. But it was definitely Go Green, Stop AIDS, and Fair Trade that I was involved in. And then there was a vegetarian and vegan society as well, but that's not why I became a vegan. Or maybe it was why I became a vegan. No, I don't know. When did I come up with the vegan idea? Bloody hell. Well, it may have come as a result of some of my further reading that I was doing. I was really into Gandhi for a while. I was reading his autobiography, and I got into Jainism because mainly what I was interested in was non-violence, and I was interested in non-violent civil disobedience. So I'd seen the film Gandhi with Ben Kingsley in it, and it was a really moving and inspiring piece of cinema for me, such that I was really like motivated by that film to actually be a social activist of my own. Like, I really became passionate about doing something of positive benefit in an active way, that was in line with a kind of spiritual meditational thing at the same time. Like, I was really into all this. I was into lots of different things. I was into philosophy, Buddhism, Gandhi, non-violence, environmentalism, um, social justice, the economy, and understanding the economy in a new way. Like, I wanted a new paradigm for the economy as well, because I felt like capitalism and consumerist society was, for the first part, not leading us towards happiness. Secondly, was raping the planet, which it still is, and these are still truths. But I've just kind of like acquiesced, and I'm like, oh, I cannot take it on. I can't be bothered. We do need products. We do need certain products. Certainly within the schema of our lives, we need these products, because if we don't have them, then it makes our lives dysfunctional, in some way. Unless we move to a place where not having products is no longer dysfunctional, like in some countries of the world. If you don't have a certain product, then it doesn't necessarily mean that your life is dysfunctional, because your society is not predicated. Look at these words coming out of my mouth. Your society is not predicated on such a consumerist society, and you have a different way of living, so you do not rely on so many products and services. So your society is more rudimentary. Not that that means it's worse, but it's just different. Yeah. So, but I really, really believed that I personally could make a difference, and then I made a little bit of a difference, and then I realized that I'd taken on, basically, I was trying to take on the whole world, and I was trying to change the whole world as one being, one person. Um, and actually, I had this kind of giant ego about it. It was a world saver ego, so I felt somewhat messianic in what I was doing. Not to the point of actually believing that I was a Jesus type of person, but I felt that I was capable and wanted to be someone of the kind of caliber, if you like, of Gandhi, or of who else did I want to be? At the time, I really looked up to Bono as well, because he was a musician and he was doing things I felt were um, like socially good and good for the planet and good for the world. And I also looked up to Bob Geldof, and I felt like he was doing a lot of good for the planet and stuff with Live Aid and Live 8 and campaigning and things like that. And then subsequently, I reassessed that whole system and realized that it's just a bunch of um, upper middle class twonks who think they know better than everyone else and trying to impose some kind of set of values on lots of other people. So I decided that wasn't exactly consistent with how I felt about things. So I went, and also I realized that the main falsity behind what I was doing was that I believed myself to be this giant person, or at least capable of becoming this giant person. So it was really a sense of getting an ego inflation from a future scenario. So like I was getting a kind of kick out of like a social. Mm, I was getting this kind of feeling of social status somehow from the actions I was doing. Made me feel like I was an important person. Yeah, basically, I was an arrogant motherfucker, but I was arrogant about being humble. So my arrogance was that I thought I could help everyone. So that's a weird arrogance, because normally arrogant people, we tend to think of them as being people who don't care about anyone and people who are just kind of trying to get their own way for themselves. Whereas my arrogance was to get my own way for other people. So it was that kind of, it was like megalomania. Yeah, like a megalomania type of thing. It's only on a small scale, right? I mean, I didn't topple countries and I didn't do mass slaughters or anything like some other megalomaniacs, but it was my own form of small scale megalomania where I genuinely felt myself and thought myself to be much bigger than my own boots, really. And what I think happened was I came up against my own limitations and realized that these giant images of myself as being this kind of world savvy kind of person who will topple capitalism somehow and will save the world from environmental destruction and will reverse global warming somehow by having read these things and told people about it and spread awareness and being a powerful leader. Yeah. And I kind of came up against the limitation of, well, I don't think that I can actually do that. I'm only this one person, and I found that's actually quite difficult to even convince a few people to come along on the environmentalism journey. And I did convince a few people, and we did sort of get some positive changes made at university, the university that I was at. I mentioned about, we got some like stickers put around in halls and in the buildings to say turn your lights off when you're finished and turn your PCs off when you're finished with them, to save energy. And we managed to get some movements towards getting some proper recycling bins on the campus. And this sounds like, oh yeah, okay, great. And I think what what was happening was my grandiose grand vision for everything that I wanted to accomplish was like, I want to reverse global warming myself, and I want to end world hunger myself, and I want to revolutionize the capitalist economy, so it's no longer focusing on raping the planet and like having always pursuing things that we don't need. I want to revolutionize the whole economy myself. Yeah. So it was like that, and then realizing, it's actually quite hard even to get some of the facilities management people to consider getting some recycling bins put in the halls of residence on the university. So I kind of came up against my sense of limitation. Also, I realised that uh, there was a specific meeting that I went to with these facility management people, and a few other of our campaigns group, because we were campaigning to get the university to be more green, generally speaking, more ecological or more environmentally friendly, save energy, reduce waste, reduce the carbon footprint of the university as much as we can, and to generate a kind of culture of caring about our environment, both our local environment in terms of how we look after our campus and its greenery and its so not wasting and rubbishing, littering, sorry, and not wasting on campus, and then also like we wanted to sort of um, well, we just wanted to have people kind of have it in their awareness to be considerate to how their lifestyle was impacting on the environment on a larger scale, right? And I went to a couple of these meetings actually with the facilities management people, and it was really just a simple goal that we had, that we just wanted to have some recycling bins put into all the halls of residence, because all they had at that time was one bin. Like, so in your room in your hall, you just have one bin. In the kitchen in your hall, you just have one bin. And in the like the big bins that get picked up and taken to landfill, whatever, they were literally just the general waste, big, those big massive bins on wheels. Yeah, those big bins on wheels.
So they just had the one type of bin. And I looked around at the scenario and I was like, this is madness. Like, what? This doesn't make any sense. We're a university, like, we have intelligence, supposedly. This is a sort of intelligent organization here. This is not a profit-seeking organization as such, although it obviously has a certain financial thing about it. They have to keep it going, and people have to be paid, so there is a profit element to it. But it's not to the point of being a corporation type of thing where they're like, well, it might be. I don't know. Anyway, but I was like, okay, this makes absolutely no sense. We've got this lovely, beautiful green campus, and yet we don't have any environmental credentials really here, and it doesn't make any sense. So I was like very much pushing for this whole recycling angle, right? So I went to these meetings, and we sat there with the one particular person and maybe another couple of people from the facilities department who had the power to make this decision and make this change to bring in recycling bins, yeah. And then and we also had a meeting with the vice chancellor actually as well, which felt very, very important. We've got a meeting as a group with the vice chancellor because we're going to make these demands and these changes. And I was always a bit like, do we have to be making demands? Why do we have to demand everything all the time? But then no, or was that what they said? I don't know. Was that what the facilities management person said, or what? And I was like, no, we demand it. I can't remember. I'm confused about my own bloody personal history. Anyway, so I had these meetings, right? And I remember going to one of them and just feeling like, on the basis of the last one we've been to, or the last two ones, I was like, I just felt like I had lost the human element in what I was doing. I was so concerned about this big goal that ultimately was all about saving the world and reducing environmental damage and things like this. And then the way I was kind of presenting that to these people was, well, the way we were as a group was really like aggressive, confrontational. It was kind of like, we want this to happen and we want this to change. And like, these are just people kind of doing their job. I was just like, I don't know. I just felt like something wrong about my method or my way of doing this, and I just felt like this doesn't make any sense. I'm basically having a go at people to make these changes, and they're just trying to do their job. They got their uh, deadlines, they got their pressures from their work, and now I'm coming in here like being a bolshy kind of militant person trying to make all these changes in a kind of aggressive way. And also I think because of that aspect, I just realized that these are people too, and we've been treating them in a way like they're the enemy. That we have to get something from them, and that they're not listening to us, or they're standing in our way of our goal or something. And I was just like, this whole sort of thing I've got in my head about how to change the world is really, I've dehumanized anyone who doesn't go along with what I say, if that makes sense. So I put the people in these facilities management positions as in the role of enemy, and I put the vice chancellor in the role of enemy because they're in the power and we're the underdog kind of people, trying to make changes. And I've put these people who are just human beings, and they're just kind of trying to do their job and trying to be happy and live their lives, and I'm coming in and just like being a dick. And so I remember going along to this, I think it was the second meeting, and I just didn't say much at all in the meeting. And I'd even been I'd been listening to these kind of personal development tapes that were all about negotiation and how to negotiate things and stuff. So I was like trying to pump myself up to negotiate with these people. And I got there and I just didn't hardly say anything. And the other people in my group, and I'm supposed to be the leader of that group, right? So I was like four runner, whatever you call it. The what do they call me? The chair or something? I was the chair of the Go Green, it's like leader or something, chairperson. I don't know, but I was the head. I was the spearhead of it. So I was driving most of the campaigns. I was driving the direction of it. Um, and yeah, and then I sat there in these meetings, and I was like, I don't feel like I can actually even go through with this, because I realized that these are just people, and I'm treating them like they're enemies somehow. So I felt like, what right do I have to make these demands? Now I could have gone further with it and just been a bit more relaxed in my approach and just been like, okay, well, let's try and work something out here. But what actually happened was I just kind of went, oh God, my whole schema of myself is off. My whole idea of my vision is off. Whoa, what am I doing? Because I realized that mainly it was a bit delusional what I was thinking. Nothing psychotic at that point, but just a bit kind of grandiose. And I came up against my own limitations, and I realized that actually this is not really what I want to do, because I don't know, maybe I felt like I wasn't cut out for it as well, that I had ideas bigger than my ability, and I don't know. Uh, I feel like maybe I should have carried on, but my heart really wasn't in it. That's the truth. And what I decided to do, not specifically on the basis of that, but on the basis of, well, reading Eckhart Tolle's book A New Earth really changed my perspective a bit, but also just my own self-understanding was growing. Like my understanding of what is important to me was growing. And I made a decision at that time to give up all the campaigning that I was doing, because I realized my energies were being spread really thin. Like I was doing all this campaigning. I was trying to do an art and philosophy course, which the philosophy I was finding ridiculously hard. Like my brain just could not handle the way that philosophy is written. It's just so dense. And I realized that most of the philosophy that we were learning about was just one guy, mainly male, by the way, almost exclusively male. Certainly the older ones, anyway, the older philosophers, all male, by the way. Just thought I'd point that out. Basically, it's one bloke arguing with another bloke about ideas and trying to destroy each other's ideas. And then when it came to the discussion element, I sat in a seminar, right? I sat in a seminar where this I believe she was a PhD student or maybe a master's student, I don't know, from another university had come along, right, to give a talk on a subject of authorship. I think it was like authorship and authenticity or something like that. And so I don't exactly know, I can't remember exactly what her points were, but she was talking about the nature of authorship and I can't remember what is the self and what is authorship, and she was making some kind of arguments and points about how we should think about authorship in terms of who is doing the writing. I don't know. I can't remember it. Like, that's the limit of my ability. I can't tell you what her discussions and points were, but I listened to this presentation, and then she stands at the front of the class, and this was like an extracurricular thing that I was going to. There were like lots of different philosophy, society debates. So they're kind of like people would present a lecture or a topic, and then so it was like a public, open to the public, so not just philosophy students, but mostly philosophy students would go along to them. So you'd have like these little discussions presented by either the philosophy lecturers themselves, just because it's something they're passionate about and they want to keep a sort of background community of philosophy going on, or it'd be people like from other universities or students themselves wanting to present on a particular topic. And so, as I say, so I listened to this person talking about this authorship topic, and I think I was just like drawing pictures or doodling or something, and maybe thinking about lyrics. Yeah. But then after she'd finished the presentation, I was sat there in this like small lecture / seminar room, with a fair amount of people in there, and like all she got was criticism, problem suggestions, like this. There's a problem that I see with your point here, and yeah. So it's like a real. I just came away from it feeling like philosophy is just mental warfare, basically, is a good way to say it, I suppose. It's like one person arguing with another person, and one set of ideas clashing and arguing with another set of ideas, and then what else? And that the humanity of it was like really off. So it was all very rational and very logical, and like this poor person at the front of the thing has just come here to, she's sort of like presenting a new understanding or a new mode of thinking about something, and then all that she gets is just all this kind of negativity, criticism, picking holes, finding flaws, finding problems, and it's just so struck me that it was so destructive, was the word that I came out there thinking. It's just a destructive pastime, pardon me. It's just so destructive, like, and something that came up for me then was like, I'm not about all this destruction. Like, I'm not about picking holes and flaws in people's arguments. Part of what I was about was to try and make a better world, to bring about a place where there was less suffering and less hardship, and for the whole globe, not just for me and my friends and family and my country, but I really was trying to cultivate a global vision, right? And I was thinking, this, just a bunch of philosophical arguments and rational arguments fighting against each other. I just don't see what is that doing? Why are we doing that? Like, and I was thinking,
again, I want to create a better world, and all I'm hearing is fighting about what ideas are right and wrong, and whatever comes out of that is just more defense. It's just very defensive. So someone puts up a viewpoint or an argument, and then people attack it. So the person who's put up the viewpoint has to argue to defend it, defending, and these people just constantly attack. So what are the options? The attackers resolve and forget about it and just stop attacking because the defending one has won, and then so what? Is this actually any good? I don't know. What does that do? What does this philosophy actually do for anyone? As well. But my main point there that I took from it personally, it's just a personal thing, yeah, was I'm not about the destruction of different ideas and presenting arguments and then nitpicking them apart. I'm about creation. I just wanted to create new things, and I couldn't see how doing philosophy was really going to help with that, because if the general mode of philosophical thinking and the philosophical approach was one of destruction and tearing down arguments or suggesting counter arguments, so it's just kind of warfare really. It's like destroy and then attack further or create a new defensive position against the other position. So it's just position versus position all the time. Like, and what's the difference between a philosophical treatise about something and another philosophical treatise like dismembering the other one, and people just having a row in the street about who nicked which person's beer? You know? You nicked my beer! I didn't nick your beer, it was my beer in the first place. No, it wasn't! You didn't have no money for it, and I bought it, and then you nicked it! No, I didn't. It was always mine, because remember, you owed me a beer anyway, so in fact, it was already my beer, because you didn't have the money to pay for my beer, so I bought it myself, and you owe it to me anyway. I can't remember how this started either. Shut up, you! I don't care, should we have sex instead? Yeah, let's have sex. Right, that's my man versus woman. Stereotypical, tickable. Philosophy, fuck philosophy. And also on another personal level with philosophy at that time. Oh, it's so confusing. So confusing. Like, there are all these. It's amazing how mankind and womankind, but as I say, mainly mankind, because women are like, you don't have brains. that's what the philosophy kind of tradition seems to be saying. Everyone is all male from the past history, whatever. Right. So, feminism. Help me, Lord. Oh yeah, another personal issue was like, so philosophy is a subject where humankind has managed to create insolvable philosophical problems. It's just not, wow, we're bored, let's create some problems of problem of knowledge. Okay, right, we're bored, let's create the unsolvable problem of ethics and morality, and okay. Oh, let's create the unsolvable problem of consciousness. Okay. It's just like, oh, it's like mathematical equations that we've just come up with and go, oh, that's no, you can't solve that. Well, why'd you make it then? I don't know. I was bored. But humankind just creates these problems and then goes, whoa, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But the point is, I would like read these problems, philosophical problems that kind of things that just don't have an answer. So you like read a certain thing and it goes, well, there's a problem of perfection of consciousness and man, and I can't remember it exactly, but there's some kind of problem about perfection. The definition of perfection is difficult or something, whatever. It's just an example that I can't remember accurately, right? And then I'm going, well, it has no fucking solution. None of the books, there's all these books and they don't have an answer. And I don't have an answer, and they don't have an answer. No one has an answer. So why am I fucking bothering? And also, at that point, it was like, because I couldn't answer it,
and because it was seemed to be so important as well, philosophy conundrums, right? They sort of didn't seem to just be your average, common or garden problem. They're like philosophical, right? So it's like really deep, meaty, weighty topics, and you're like, oh, if I can't solve this, then I can't go on. Like, oh, what is death? What is consciousness? What is the afterlife? What is the self? What is God? Is God real? And I can't answer it. And what is the nature of truth? What is knowledge? And if I can't answer it, then it's almost like, well, what's the fucking point? Because that's the sort of feeling that I got from philosophy, was that these things are necessary to answer. We must answer them, and if you can't answer them, then your life is fucked, and life is meaningless. That kind of thing. And like the problem of morality, like the different ethical approaches. So you've got kind of all the utilitarianism and Kant's moral imperative, and all these different philosophical approaches to ethics. Which does anyone really use that shit at all? Maybe they do. Maybe it has been really impactful on everything and everything, but it's like. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no real one true answer to any of these problems. It's just kind of an evolving sort of series of thoughts and ideas. But at that time in my life, I couldn't kind of distance myself from it. So it got into my head, and I was like, oh, well, am I an act utilitarian, or am I a rule utilitarian? Or do I believe in the Kant's moral imperative? Do I believe in the system of duty? What are my values? And oh God, do I believe in virtue, or do I believe in values? Am I a Platonist or a Socratetanist? Am I a post-Platonist? Am I a Socrator or a Socrateanist? What is the meaning of life? Basically, it was just too much for my brain to comprehend. Let's just check the time of the video. Oh, I've got ages left. Yeah, so I literally was considering suicide at one point, because it was almost as though, because I couldn't marry up the different thoughts in my head and couldn't understand them and sort of synthesize them into one understanding that I was okay with, that I believed in, that made sense to me, right? It's just like it sort of tore my sense of self apart, really. It's just tore my brain apart. Just like, because there was a sense that I had to kind of figure it out. Like I had to sort of figure out which one of these different belief systems that I would eventually support and say, well, I'm this, or I believe in this. And then the other aspect of that is, well, whichever one you fucking come up with, there's a million different counter arguments to it as well. So you're fucked either way. You're fucked if you commit, and you're fucked if you don't commit. So, because then you're non-committal. So you cannot win. You literally cannot win in philosophy. That's what I realized. And like nowadays, I don't care if I can win or not, because my sense of self and my sense of brain well-being is not dependent upon whether I am right or wrong, or my beliefs are true or not. I'm okay in myself anyway. Beliefs and stuff, yeah, they come and go, whatever, who cares. But at that time in my life, it was very like something very important in my brain to get it right, and to sort of fucking know which one it was, and to commit to something. And it was like it really seemed important. But what that meant was, emotionally and actually mentally, it was driving me insane. It was literally driving me insane. I had all these different arguments. It's just fucking arguments. That's what philosophy is. It's people arguing with each other in a very kind of logical and rational way. But it's still an argument. It's still a clash. It's still a fight. It's still a tussle, And to have that going on, for me personally, was anxiety provoking. It just made me feel anxious. It made me feel like kind of troubled. Yeah, troubled is the word. Troubled. It's like, oh, I've just read a load of philosophy, and now I'm like, oh, I don't understand the meaning of anything anymore. And I can actually see myself at this one particular point walking around like just obsessed with loads of different thoughts about all these different philosophies, right? All of these different ones, just going, inside my brain, and I can see myself there going, this is making me depressed. I actually want to kill myself, and I'm really anxious that I cannot compute all these things, and they all have the same feeling of importance to them as well. And that was one of the reasons why towards the end of the course I was just thinking, fuck philosophy. Like, and we had to do so much reading, and I wasn't really on top of, like, I couldn't discern which readings I actually had to do and which readings I didn't have to do. So we got this big reading list in our kind of flappy book of philosophy stuff, right? And there was like loads and loads and pages of suggested reading stuff. And I went through this little phase where I thought, oh, I'm going to read them all. You've got to read them all. I'm going to read them all. So I went to the library and got all these books out and like photocopied the parts I was supposed to read. And I got back home to my room in Reading University, St Patrick's Hall, with my photocopies, and I looked and I'm like, I can't even read a paragraph of it. I tried to read through a paragraph, like, so thick, to the point that it's like just garbled, incomprehensible, gribble gibberish, just like, so my mind was not cut out for philosophy. So yeah, in tandem with that kind of the philosophy thing, and then also the realizations I was having around my campaigning life, right? I was like, okay, I'm not about all this meanness, okay, and the destruction of ideas and stuff. And also, I've realized that my fucking dream and ego is way bigger than my actual capability at this time. I get a sense that some people will want me to, like, there's another angle to say, well, you just didn't carry on long enough. No, I don't care about that. It was wrong, okay? It was a grandiose belief system that was putting myself in a future position that was way bigger than what I actually truly was capable of and truly was interested in even. That's the point. It's like my heart wasn't in it. So I was having discussions with Mr. B about whether I should be more of a Bono or whether I should be more of a Gandhi or whether I should be the Prime Minister. You know, literally, we went out for a little walk, him and I, into the, like, just a little bit of kind of countryside near where we were living at that time. And I had this discussion with him, and I was always having stupid discussions, lofty, grandiose discussions about life with him, and him basically arguing with me again, all with the arguments. So yeah, we went out to have this discussion. I just remember being again troubled and kind of like, I can't decide whether I'm going to be Bono, or whether I should aim to be like Bono, or whether I should be like whether I should go for being Prime Minister. And I was asking Mr. B, like, what do you think is going to be the one that will give me the greatest impact on humankind? It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculously grandiose. And it was all like with this real sense of depth and importance, like so self-important. I was so self-important, like, and that was a cause of my suffering actually as well, because it was like my sense of self was so big in the future that I couldn't even, like, it's sort of like why was it troubling? It was always troubling me. It was always troubling me, like whether I was doing the right thing and going in the right direction and trying to make a choice between how I was going to best benefit humanity, and it was all based upon this giant ego fantasy of myself in some giant role, basically as being this kind of grandiose superhero, kind of like a philanthropist superhero type of person. And I'd taken the burden of the whole world up on my own two shoulders and thought that I single-handedly could change it all myself, because I felt that I was so self-important, basically, that it was up to me to do it personally. Yeah. So as a result of all this kind of stuff, I made a decision that I wasn't into the destruction. I realized that part of this whole vision I had for the world was just a grandiose ego delusion of myself. And I decided to just kind of start snipping things off that weren't real and weren't me, weren't really me, weren't as important to me. So basically, I kind of stopped doing all the campaigning, um, or I resigned from the head position and gave it to someone else. And then I kind of came along to the meetings a few times, but I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I realized that it wasn't actually me. It was I was only doing it based on a kind of future me. But the me now, the me that was there, that where my heart was, I really wasn't. I wasn't up to it. I wasn't capable of what I thought I was capable of. I didn't really care in the way that I thought I did. I also realized I was making other people into an enemy by the way that I was doing things. I realized that everything I was doing in that arena was all based upon a kind of future state of myself, and that my present state was not really about it, and also that I was getting major ego inflation from the things that I was doing, which is actually, ego inflation is a double-edged sword. So on the one hand, it feels great because you feel really important. So when you got like this big sense of being important to other people and important to the world, then that's a great feeling, because you're like passionate and you feel like your life has meaning and you have purpose, and that you as a person have a really powerful or deep role to play, right? And that's really good feeling. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to pretend that it's rubbish, because it was really kind of, you feel a real strong sense of self, and you feel a really strong sense of righteousness, is a way of putting it. But the double-edged sword to it is that other people think you're a dick. So socially, it's really difficult. You come across as a bit of a fascist. You're arrogant as fuck. And then you have to deal with the realities of the situation. So you have to deal with setbacks. And every setback you face is a knock to your ego inflation. So if you are getting this big pompous self feeling from what you're doing, and then you find out you cannot do something, or you find out that what you've done has been harmful to someone, then all that ego inflation in a positive direction goes into a negative direction, and then you're like, just, what have I done? What am I doing? I don't believe in this anymore. I don't believe in myself. This has all been wrong. And I realized as well, like, so I came to like kind of so many different realizations about what was true for me and real. And like I had this so in the campaigns group there was this one particular guy. I'm not going to give him his name because I'm not doing names, as we know, apart from very occasionally. But there was this guy who was an active member of the group, and he was very kind of enthusiastic, right? And because I was the head of the campaign, and I was really enthusiastic about what I was doing, I was really driven and passionate, and was being a fairly good leader at a certain point in the stage. And I don't think that's too arrogant to say. I mean, my sort of vision and some of the ways that I was going about it, as I just said, were very pompous and grandiose. But I was actually a fairly good leader in terms of being able to provide goals for us to move towards, and practical things that we could actually do that related to our vision as a group, right? I mean, like, it's kind of like, I feel like it's really the personal element to me that was wrong, that was missing in what I was doing. There was a disconnect from my personal truth to the campaigns group. Like, I don't want to say that actually campaigning for environmentalism and campaigning to reduce our human impact on the natural world. And I'm not saying that that's wrong itself. I'm saying that the way that I was doing it was not right for me. And also the fact that I was doing it also wasn't right for me. Like, I don't want to stop anyone from actually doing that kind of thing. But for me, I realized that I wasn't the right person for that job because I had a level of self-understanding suddenly come to me to realize that this was not the right thing. Anyway, but there was this before that, part of something that happened to help me realize that was that there was this other guy, as I was saying, in the campaigns group, and he was really enthusiastic, right? And he kind of started just following me around a little bit. Like, he became like a lackey kind of thing, like a little sort of right hand man. Sounds dodgy, but he was. I just get the sense of him kind of following me around like a little kind of enthusiastic puppy dog, like a bit like a Smithers. So if he was like Mr. Smithers and I was Mr. Burns, so I was like kind of the leader. That makes me sound bad, but he was like a lackey. He was a lackey, right? And I just remember him kind of being really supportive of me being the leader, and he even said to me stuff like, "So, what are you going to do next, or what are we going to do next, Ross?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And he was like, "Well, you're the leader." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And it's just the way that he sort of deferred. He was deferring so much of his own independence of thought and his own independence of sort of self-leadership, or his own independence of, I don't know, just like he'd so invested himself in me as this leader. And I was like, I I just felt uncomfortable with it. I felt uncomfortable with having someone who was like completely kind of devoted themselves to me. And maybe all of this whole thing is saying something like I had just a massive hole in my self-esteem, where my genuine sense of self-worth was a lot lower than the facade of worth that I had created around my life. And that was the disconnect. That was the mismatch, that I was presenting this view of myself to other people and this view of my vision, and then the truth of how I really felt about myself was a lot smaller than that. Yeah. But then there's another point to it as well, which was I'd taken on too much. And that was part of the grandiosity. That was part of the trying to achieve so much. I wanted to achieve all these goals, and I was trying to be everyone's friend. I was trying to talk to everyone. I was trying to do everything that I'd ever had a thought about doing. I was trying to achieve every little goal I'd ever thought of having. I was trying to save the world. I was trying to do an art course. I was trying to do a philosophy course. I was trying to do politics modules as well. I was trying to understand philosophy. I was trying to maintain a relationship with a boy that I did not love, really, who annoyed the fuck out of me, but who I was committed to. And having friendships, and it was just all too much. So yeah, I mentioned about this kind of lackey guy, like this dog type of person. Like, what are you gonna do next, Ross? You're the leader. You're the leader. You're our leader. You're our leader, was what he said. You're our leader, and I was like, oh god, it's just some kind of cult of Ross. You're our leader. Okay, now if I was in that situation now, I would have probably said, "Down, boy." You know, yeah. Don't you worry, I have a plan. And then I'd be like, I don't have a plan at all. But I definitely put myself in the position of being intelligent man, leader with a plan, man with a plan, right? As I was always had a plan and a goal about how we could turn our vision into something practical that we could do. How are we going to do this? What are we actually going to do then? Like that. You're our leader, Ross. Give me direction. Yeah, lead me. Like a little dog. Here's your lead. And I don't know. It was just like something felt off about it. I didn't feel like in the right position to be leading people, because something in me said, something in me said, no, it was like because I'd sort of somehow was putting myself above people as well. Like, I didn't like the feeling that he sort of somehow thought that I was more than him somehow, because I'd put myself in this position of leadership, and he was like, give me direction. I don't need a brain of my own. And I was like, and I didn't know how to deal with that either. Like, a true leader would have been able to deal with this sort of thing and say, look, something like, I'm in the position of leadership, yes, but you decide for yourself what you want to do, something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a leader right now. Okay. And oh god, there's that. That was another whole fucking delusional, philosophical dilemma that I went through, which was like this leadership paradigm thing. Oh, why is it? It's over there in my aura. Apparently, this idea of leadership. That kept coming to me, I was troubled about being a leader as well. Not only in that scenario, but just in general, like, I'm going to be a leader. I need to think about leadership. What's my view of leadership? What's my style of leadership? Leader. I'm a leader of men. Am I a leader of people? What am I a thought leader? I'm a leader. I'm a leadership. I need to think about leadership. So yeah. Yeah. Oh, so the decision I came to was that I was going to make my contribution to humanity, through my creativity instead of all this confusing turmoil nonsense, and that my contribution was going to be based upon my creative talents, because that was what I had always wanted to do. Um, so I, because there's another thing as well, where early on, right early on in my first year of uni, I was trying to pick different societies to go to. Because there was loads of different societies to go to, all offering programs and events and stuff, and sort of meetups and whatnot, and discussion and things like that. And I was also friends with the leadership team of the students' union, because, as I said before, I felt like I was this really important person, so I needed to get involved with the leadership team, right? And I was always hanging around the leadership area of the students' union. Like, I was always kind of trying to talk to the different leaders of the students' union. Partly I was trying to kind of convince them to be more environmentally friendly and bring in more green stuff and fair trade stuff. So I was trying to campaign with them, or to them, whatever. And I wanted to have them on side as well, so they could help us with what we were doing in the campaign group. So, like, as I say, there's kind of there's two elements to this campaigning that I was doing. There's one genuine thing that I was actually trying to do something good for other people in the world and stuff, and this other part that was getting this massive ego inflation about it, which was ending up causing me suffering. As I said, like, there's loads of different things that if you build this big identity about yourself, then you come into contact with the reality of yourself, or the reality of life that just kind of says no about that. Then that's a point of suffering, because you realize, I've created this ideal of myself and I can't actually match it. And you can never match those ideals of yourself. So you have to have a real understanding of yourself that is not based upon anything bigger than what you are, really. That focuses on your true capabilities and your true needs and your true wants and your true intelligence and your true passions, right? Yeah. Anyway, where am I going with this? Blah. Oh yeah, so early on in my university year, first year, one of the leadership team, I was having a discussion with him about, like, well, what society should I join? And it was a choice for me between either the Rock Society and some kind of environmental one, right? And he said, well, you got to choose the one that's most important to you. And I went, like, having been in bands, having been all about my music, having been all about writing lyrics and doing artwork and doing acting and stuff, right, and it all into my music, big into my music. And now I'd created this, like, world-saving identity, this messianic kind of idea of myself. I went, but it's definitely the environmental one then. And I went, and it was like a kind of crusade feeling about it. I was like, yeah, definitely going to do that one then. And I sort of fucked off the Rock Society one as though it was like for lesser beings. For lesser beings. Now that I'm a hyper super mega lord. Yeah, Megazord. Megaloid. Yeah. So essentially, I sacrificed my true desires and wants and feelings and passions for this idealized self and this idealized future, rather than going for what I was actually genuinely passionate about and what I was genuinely interested in and genuinely good at as well. So my creative talents have always been what I have done and what I have been good at, and I do them partly because I'm good at them, but I do them because I enjoy them and because I'm genuinely interested in the process of creativity. I'm genuinely interested in whatever it is I'm trying to sort of convey in my work. It's personal expression, and that goes through different phases. You know, I went through a big old authenticity phase for a while where I was like, everything has to be real and based upon my life, and now I'm in more of a phase of it is authentic because I'm the one doing it. So it comes from me, therefore it's authentic, you know. It doesn't ah yeah. You can have authentic imagination as well as authentic truth telling of real, you know, stories and dramas or whatever. So whatever, who fucking cares? Yeah, so I made that decision like early on in the university to go with the green stuff and all the social justice warrior type things. It wasn't called that at that time though, so I can't call it social justice warrior because we didn't have that terminology. But that's what it was. That warrior element, the campaigning, crusading warrior type of thing. And so later on, after I'd gone through all these realizations about, oh, this wasn't really the truth for me, this wasn't really right, this was based on some kind of grandiosity, I went, what I am actually going to do is what I should have done in the first place, which was stick with what I know, what I like, what I love, what I'm passionate about, what I'm good at, what I want to do, where my heart truly is, where my talents truly lie, and kind of say bye bye to this giant campaign to save the world. And I basically said that I will somehow bring that helpfulness or that trying to save the worldiness into what I'm doing in the musical artistic level. And since then, I didn't really follow that path. I mean, I followed the artistic path of self-expression, but I didn't follow the path of trying to save the world. You know, I became much more grounded, basically like, am I doing what I want to do? Are people enjoying it or not? And I try and do stuff that people will resonate with, so that there is some kind of healing happening, if possible. But to not be trying to overstretch the capabilities of the work. So to not be kind of, if you go into something, I think if you go into something with the idea that you're going to make a massive impact or a massive change, you're setting yourself up for failure. What you should, personally, what I think you should do is to go in and say, I want to do my best and I want to do my job well and I want to enjoy myself and I want to contribute something. It doesn't have to be massive. I just want to contribute something to humanity, whether it be just one person, one other person's life. That's a contribution. And on that note, I very rarely spoke about Mr. B during this session, so what can I title this video? How I didn't save the world, something like that. I don't know. You'll see. You'll know what it is anyway. Bye bye.